Hey guys, I thought I would get on and try my video skills out. Last night I was laying in bed, and much like most of the other teachers around right now, we're all trying to think of new and exciting and fun ways of being able to teach. And so I was laying in bed and the news was playing. It was talking about masks, and right now I am working on getting lessons ready on measurement. So I thought, you know what, I bet we could make some masks and practice some of our measuring skills. So I thought I would give it a try. So today I've been playing around, watching different videos and things, trying to come up with some different ways of making some masks. And I was trying to think, for my fifth graders, most of them aren't going to know how to use a sewing machine. So I need to come up with a way that they could make something without having to sew. So knowing that our school has a fun day that we do called Duct Tape Day, I came up with a way of making some masks using some fabric and some duct tape. I have a camo one, and then I thought that one turned out kind of big, so I made another one that was a little bit smaller. So I'm going to show you, and we're going to go over some measuring and different skills like that, and show you how to make a mask. So what you're going to need today, I'm going to show you this list of supplies, and you can refer back to it later, and I'll put it at the end of the video. But what you're going to need today to make a mask is marker, scissors, some duct tape, a little bit of scrap material, and then something to measure with. I have a yardstick, standard measurement. I also have a meter stick, but we're probably not going to use that today, but we might talk about it. I have a measuring tape that came out of my sewing kit. I made Mr. Owen go get me his tape measure in case we wanted to use that. So something to measure with, and then also we have a ruler, and so we can use that for this today as well. So you're gonna need something to measure with, and then some string or yarn, or maybe I used some bias tape on one, and I had some of this left over from a project that I'd used that we could use that. Or this is literally rickrack from my grandma's old sewing box that I thought we might be able to use. So, but we'll need about 70 inches of this. Yarn would even work. So I'm going to show you what to do. I'm going to get into this really quickly because I'm afraid this video is going to take too long. So to get started, the first thing that you're going to need is 2 9 by 9 inches of fabric. Now, for you fifth graders, 9 inches. We know how many inches there are in a foot. I hope everybody in your mind right now is saying 12 inches in a foot. You would be exactly right, but I'm wondering if you know how much of a foot is 9 inches. How would you write that as a fraction? And if you think about it, we'd have 9 out of the 12 inches, which is going to reduce down to 3/4 of a foot. Now, if you're using your yardstick, you would go to the 9-inch mark. If you're using a ruler, that would be easy enough, or measuring tape. And you're simply going to take your material. I'm going to tilt my camera down here. And you can take your handy dandy marker. If you mark on the fabric, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Measure off 9 inches. Put a little mark. Measure off 9 inches the other way. And put a little mark. And then draw yourself some lines to mark that off. And I'm just going to do that very quickly, like so. Now, if this isn't perfect, it's all right. Also, I'll have you notice that I have 2 pieces of fabric on top of each other. They're the same type, and you can use any kind of fabric that maybe cotton, I think, would be probably the best from what I was reading, but it needs to be thick enough that when you hold it up to the light, you can't see it, because for these masks, you want to be able to have as much thread count between you and the rest of the world. So, but note, these masks are not replacement for medical masks. This is just a project, and maybe you'll be able to use it. I don't think we'll be able to wash them because they're made out of duct tape, but it might be good for a couple of uses and something fun for the kids to make. So I'm just going to cut along these lines that I made with my handy dandy marker. And again, if they're not perfect, it's gonna be all right. Ta-da. Okay, so having that done, I've got my 2 pieces of fabric with the wrong sides together so that the pretty sides are on the outside. Now, what you're also gonna need is you're gonna need to take your duct tape roll. I was kind of sad that all I could find at my house was the ugly gray kind, but there's all kinds of duct tape out there and all of it works. So you can use whatever you've got handy at the house, but you're gonna need 2 strips that are 9 inches long. And I've already cut those off, but I will show you what that's gonna look like for measuring it. Again, you need 9 inches because what we're gonna do with this tape is to make sure that the edges don't unravel on your mask. So my suggestion would be to lay it down, stick it maybe just a little bit to the table, make a mark at 9 inches. Again, 3/4 of a foot. And then roll that bad boy out again, put your mark at the 0, put another mark at the next 9-inch mark, and then cut that off. I've been using the edge of my table to be an extra set of hands. But be sure not to stick it down too much and make sure all of it's okay with your parents that you use these supplies. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take each of those 9-inch strips that we made, those 2, and we're gonna cut them in half because we don't want that big of a piece on our mask. So if you can see what I'm doing, I'm just sliding my scissors down the middle of that duct tape all the way to the other side. Zoop, ha ha. Now I kind of got close, didn't quite make it, little rip. You can rip it all the way down, but it's not very neat. I'm kind of a neat freak, so, but that's up to you. So, all right, now I'm gonna put my 2 9-inch by 9-inch blocks back in front of me. And what I'm gonna do, and I know you can't see this really great on the camera, but I'm gonna put that edge of the duct tape right there at the edge of my fabric. And then I'm gonna take it and flip it over and I'm gonna fold that edge over onto the other side. Again, what this is doing is just gonna keep our fabric from unraveling. So then I'm gonna take the other piece that I just cut, and I'm gonna do the same thing all the way around the outside edges of the mask, or of these 9-inch by 9-inch squares. Now we're talking about measurement in 5th grade right now, and inches is something that you use a lot with sewing, you use it a lot with carpentry. We're also gonna talk about yards in 5th grade and kind of go over that. Now I bet a bunch of my 5th graders would be able to tell me from what they already know how many inches are in a foot, which we already discussed was 12, but I'm wondering if they can recall how many inches are in a yard. So let's think about that for a second and flip that over. All right, now we know that a ruler is 1 foot, and the number of feet that a yardstick is 3. So if we were trying to determine how many inches were in this yardstick, we could take 3 times 12 to determine that it is 36 inches. And we're gonna need that measurement. So 36 inches is exactly the same amount as 3 feet, or 1 yard. All right, so if your pieces of masking tape, duct tape were a little long, you can just snip them right off, and that's all right. No big deal. Okay, so there we have a 9-inch by 9-inch square that has duct tape around the edges to keep it from unraveling. So with that being done, the next thing that we need to do is we need to fold our mask so that it has that pleated look to it, so that we can spread it out over our mouth and nose. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our 9 by 9-inch square and we're gonna make some marks on the edge. What I found earlier is if I will mark it at 2 inches and then 2 inches farther, it kind of just gives me a guide of where to fold. and then one at 6.5 inches. So one mark at 2, one mark at 4, and one mark at 6.5. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side at 2 inches, 4 inches, and 6.5 inches using my handy dandy ruler. Now, if you look at mine, you can see I have little pink marks. Whoop, can you see those? Dink, right there on the sides. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use those for a guide. But again, if this is not perfect, it's no big deal. So I'm going to take where my 2 pink marks are closest to me at 2 inches, and I'm going to fold my mask over towards me. I'm going to fold it back, kind of like a fan. If you've ever made those paper fans, this is basically the same kind. You're just not going to go all the way to the edge. And it doesn't look like my pink marks are lining up very good, but that's okay. Just kind of fold it back and forth like a fan until you have it like this. All right, so I'm going to take this and set my handy dandy measuring tape that my husband brought to me right there. And then I'm going to take the duct tape and set that there for just a second. Now, the next thing that I need is 4 inches of duct tape so that I can hold the sides down. So let's switch this out. We're going to take our handy dandy duct tape. Duct tape is awesome. It was part of my sewing kit whenever I was in college. That is no lie, no joke. All right, so I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to see I need 8 inches total. I need 2 pieces that are 4 inches long. So if I take 8 and divide it in half, I would have 4. So if I cut one piece that is 8 inches and then cut right down the middle, I'm going to have 4 inches. And what that's going to allow me to do, I'm going to try to scoot this camera a little closer, is have a piece that I can put on the side of my mask, right down those edges. So I'm going to take my 4-inch piece of tape and I'm going to put it on the edge about half, and then I'm going to fold it to the back side with the other half, like that. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the other 4-inch piece of tape on the other side. Now, quick question. Last 9 weeks, 5th grade was all about fractions, and then we did some more fractions. It was a lot of fractions. So, question, how much of a foot, what fractional part of a foot is 4 inches? Ooh, my camera's kind of down there. What do you think? If you have 4 over 12, 4 out of 12, that would be 1/3 of a foot. We would need 3 pieces that are 4 inches long to equal 1 foot of duct tape. So I'm just trimming off the extra on the edges so that it's neat, because like I said, I'm kind of a neat freak. If you wanted to press this down before you put the duct tape on it really quickly, you could. Just be really careful and ask your parents, because I think the duct tape on the iron, that would be a very bad thing. So I just kind of finger press it with my fingers. The idea of having the 2 layers of fabric in there allows just for more protection for germs to not get out. All right, so the next part is the straps of which to tie it to your head. So what we're gonna need for that is 2 pieces of whatever kind of yarn, string, ribbon that you have, and those need to be 36 inches long. Now, I know, we just kind of discussed that a second ago. We could use rickrack, we could use ribbon, we could use whatever we wanted, but I want to know 36 inches is how many feet? Do you remember? I hope said 3. It is 3 feet. And 3 feet or 36 inches is exactly the same amount as 1 yard. So I'm going to take my handy dandy yardstick to measure this. However, if you only had a ruler, you could use that ruler to measure it 3 times. And if it's not exactly perfect, it's okay. Now, I was thinking, but what if kids don't have any yarn and they don't have any string and they can't find anything? Here's the deal. You can use duct tape. My first one that I made is all of duct tape on the strings because I was not thinking about anything else. So when I made the camo one, I just took duct tape and folded it in half, and that's what I used for the strings on that one. So, 14 minutes. I'm trying to hurry. I'm kind of going slow. Okay, so then we have our mask that we just made. I'm going to take this mask and I'm going to fold the edges like this so that I have the duct tape on one side of it. And I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to very carefully up close to the top, I'm trying to do this so you can see it, and I'm going to make just a little slit with my scissors. I'm not going to cut all the way to the edge of the, let me see you do this. Okay, like that. And then I'm going to make 4 marks, and they don't have to be perfect, but you do need to get all the way through, because what we're going to do is we're going to take our handy dandy rickrack or ribbon or whatever, and we are going to go through front, back, weaving it in and out of the fabric, front, back, and then front. If you cut 4 marks, then there'll be, the ends will be coming out both sides of the same side of the mask, like so. Kind of feed that through there so that you've got half on one side and half on the other. Oh, that's kind of hard to see. Okay, and then do the same thing to the other side. So once you get that done, here's one that I did earlier with the polka dotted blue fabric, and I used pink bias tape. You just take your handy dandy mask there, and you can take this top ribbon and tie it above your nose on top of my ponytail, like so. Whoop! Oops. I guess I should really like tie it in a knot so that it doesn't fall down. And then down here at the bottom, do the same thing. The bias tape is kind of slippery, where the rickrack and the duct tape is not so much. I actually got duct tape stuck in my hair earlier. So there we are, a handy dandy mask made out of fabric and duct tape just for you. Little lesson on some measurement with inches, yards. We're even going to learn how many inches, or not inches, but feet in a yard or in a mile, and how many yards are in a mile. And I'm very excited about it. So there you are. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.